Come check out the Connection Games and Comics. We have the largest selection of War Machine and Hordes miniatures in the Lower Mainland. War Machine Wednesdays and Sundays, with tables and terrain to play your game.
Welcome back to Wargamers Shut Up and Paint. In this video, we're going to talk about mixing colors, basic color theory, and getting the most out of your paint. Now, if you've seen our unboxing video of the Army Painter War Paints, I explained a little bit about what we would be doing in this video. The first thing I do anytime I'm going to be dealing with paint in a brush of any kind is I make sure that the brush is wet. And the reason why I do that is because that way paint is less likely to seep into the base of the brush. I believe it's called the ferrule, but that doesn't matter. So we extend the lifespan of our paintbrush just by doing that. It's a really simple thing, but that's fine. So as you guys are probably aware, you can get just about any colors out of red, yellow, and blue. These are our primary colors, just like we've learned all the way through our lives. And yeah, so what we're going to do, I'm going to put a single drop of red. Single drop of blue. And a drop of yellow. There we go. Okay, so these are our primary colors. Pretty straightforward. If you want to paint with your primary colors, that's perfectly fine. Red, blue, yellow, all perfectly fine colors. But maybe we're not happy with just having 3 different colors of paint. So we're going to mix our secondary colors. And this is by taking an equal part of each primary color and mixing it with an equal part of one of the other colors. I'm just going to make sure that this yellow is mixed up. It is important to shake your paint bottles, so be aware of that. So put a drop of yellow here in between our 2 primary colors, drop of yellow here, again in between our other 2 primary colors. Drop of red. Drop of red. Then we take our blue and do the same thing. There we go. And we're going to just take our brush, we're going to mix them together. So these are going to be our secondary colors. So our blue and our red, we're going to make our purple. And we actually get a nice color purple out of it. If you're mixing colors, I would definitely add more water. And by that I mean mixing colors to use. We'll mix our yellow and our blue to make our green. And this is, again, when I was talking about the green that came in the box, this is what I meant. There's no need to have a green in a box when you have a yellow and a blue, at least for a beginning paint color. So here's our green. Now, of course, this isn't the same color green that came in the box. In order to get that color, you'd want to add more yellow, but that would brighten it up considerably. And we'll mix together our red and our yellow to make our orange. So as you can see, with just that basic step, mixing 1-to-1 ratios, so nothing fancy, in our eyedropper bottles, which basically pre-measures it for us, we've expanded the amount of colors we have from 3 to 6. So then, for basic color wheels, you want to be able to create your tertiary colors. And what that is that's mixing our primary color with our secondary colors. And that should give us a pretty good range of additional colors. So basically you want to mix a primary color with the secondary color next to it in equal quantities. So we know we've got 2 drops of paint in this purple. And we know that this purple was created with 1 drop of red and 1 drop of blue. So let's say we want to make the tertiary color for this purple. We take 1 drop of blue. Red, and actually we're going to need to do this a couple times, because you can actually make 2 tertiary colors with each, obviously. That's probably too much, but that's okay. And then we'll take our, there we go. So this will make our green, this will make our purple. Actually, we're just going to continue outward if we can. Okay, so this looks a little bit messy, because it is, and I organized it a little poorly, but that's okay. I actually need this yellow here. So I'm running out of palette space towards the bottom. But anyway, so for each of our secondary colors, we can create 2 separate tertiary colors. And the way we do that is we mix our secondary color with one of the or 2 of the closest primary colors. So, for example, we want to make the tertiary color for purple. Well, we can take our purple and we can mix it with blue. And again, we want to mix it in equal amounts. So our secondary color has 2 drops worth of paint, and we want to add 2 more drops of our primary color. Okay, so we added 2 more drops there. This will create the first tertiary color. So it's basically 1 part primary, or 1 part red, 3 parts blue. This will give us more of a violet than a purple. It's actually quite a nice color. And then we'll do the same thing on the red spectrum. So this is okay. So now we are 3 parts red and 1 part blue for our other purple version of our tertiary color. So we're going to mix this together. We'll give us kind of a red violet, whereas the other one's more of a blue violet. It's a really nice, rich color. And we're going to do the same thing with our yellow. Unfortunately, I've messed this up a little bit. For our green, we will add, on this side, we will add our 1 part blue. And on this side, we will add our 1 part yellow. And we'll take a look and see how that alters the colors that we get. This is going to, again, be 3 parts blue, 1 part yellow for our tertiary green. And this is going to give us, I guess it's going to give us kind of a aquamarine almost, or a turquoise. I guess turquoise would be the right color. And the other one's going to give us a much more yellow-green, so it should be brighter. Similar to what we would have got in the box in the first place. Maybe not exactly the same, but close. It's almost like a forest green. And we'll do the same thing for our orange. So we want to have one that has 3 parts yellow. Well, that was close. And then we want to have one that's 3 parts red. So here's one that is 3 parts red. And we get like a bright orangish red. It's a very bright color. We can even mix it a little bit better. It's a very nice color, but it's very bright. I'm using daylight bulbs, 6500K is the light spectrum, so for any of you that are curious, that's what I'm using. And these colors should show up fairly accurately. And then here is our orange with the extra yellow. 3 parts yellow, 1 part red. Or 1 part of our secondary color and 1 part of our primary color. much more deep, bright orange color. It's not so much of a reddish color anymore. It's now very much an orange. So what we've done here, just by mixing our colors together in appropriate ratios for basic color theory, is we've created 12 paint colors out of our 3 primary colors. And you could go with infinite combinations here. If you wanted something a little bit darker, you could do that. If you want something a little bit brighter, you could do that. But these 12 colors give you a huge depth of what you could potentially do out of the box with just those 3 paints. Now, the reason why I mentioned it's important, well, I liked that it came with a brown, is because I find brown's kind of a difficult color to mix. Like, once you find a mix ratio that you like, it's not impossible, but I find in general it's a pain to mix the color, so I like having a brown on hand. Metallics you can't synthesize because they have actual metallic flakes inside of the paint. However, you don't need the huge amount of different kinds of metallic paints that you can buy. So we've got a plate mail metal. So there are 4 drops of plate mail metal. Our whites and our blacks can be used to change the metallic drastically. We've got our standard plate mail. And let's say I want, on this, actually no, we'll make the second one our standard plate mail. And then we will, let's say we want it a bit darker, even darker than that. So 2. And a darker, like gunmetal. And then let's say we want a highlight color for our metal, so something that's considerably brighter. Put a drop of white there. And let's mix these up and see what kind of variations we get. So here's our 3 parts black to 1 part metal. And it is a deep, deep black metal. And this is actually really good for your base color when you're trying to do dark metal colors, because it does give you a little bit of that shine, but it is very dark. It's almost like a black, but not quite. Of course, if you don't want to take it to that extreme, the second one's pretty good. I'll just mix that up. So there's our gray metal, almost. There's, again, another really good base color for metallic objects. Here's our 1-to-1 mix. And this is more of a true bolt gun color. This is kind of like your average run-of-the-mill bolt color, or bolt gun. So a lot of different manufacturers will give you this as your base color. So when you're buying these paints, let's say you had to buy these off the rack, you really want to get the brightest silver and the brightest gold, because ultimately you can mix the silvers down with just simple black, and making sure you get that high pigment count out of the brighter colors is better. Of course, there's our regular, this is the color that comes out of the pot. One important note is that in general, I mean, for this test it doesn't really matter, but in general you do not want to use a cup that you've been putting metallics into for other paints. And then here is going to be our highlight metal color. So it's going to be a much brighter color. Now, this is almost too much white, I'd say. Probably want a little bit more metallic in that. But when you're highlighting something, you're going to thin it down considerably anyway. But considering we got that out of white, black, and our silver, that's not too bad. So let's take our gold now. Now, instead of black, we're not going to mix black with our gold. We're going to mix brown. Because brown is closer to our base, our gold base. And we'll basically do the same thing. Now, this is greedy gold. It is, I think, the only gold that Warpaints sells. But it's pretty awesome, so. This is a kind of a mid-brown. For this, you know, yeah, different colors of browns will work differently. You could put more black into this if you wanted a darker brown. It's not so significant, but we'll try it the same way as we did with the black. So 1, 2, 3. Our 1 drop of white. So let's take our darkest, mix it with our brown. And it's still pretty bright. So we might even add black to these. You want to be careful when you're adding black because black saturates things incredibly. And sometimes it's not really what you're going for. You don't necessarily want to make it too dark, and it's easy to do that. So the number one thing when you're mixing any paint of any kind for any project is to write it down in a notebook. That will give you the best results every time because you know what you're getting. So here's our second. This is 2 parts brown, 1 part gold. And that's getting to be a little bit better. Here's our 1-to-1 mix. And that is obviously considerably brighter. And it may be a little hard to tell from the camera here because the browns are more similar to each other than the blacks and the silvers were. Here's our standard gold color. So that's what that looks like. And here's our highlight color, the gold and the white. And yeah, as you can see, there's far too much white here. For this one, I would probably do 2 or 3 drops of gold to the 1 drop of white, because that is just far too bright. You can't see any of the gold anymore. And really, you just want kind of a nicer highlight level. The problem with adding whites to colors in general is that you're going to end up desaturating them. So you end up with more pastel colors than you do colors that you're kind of looking for. So when you're mixing your reds and your blues and your greens, unless you want a pastel color, you don't want to just add white to these colors. Adding white will not brighten your colors at all. It will desaturate them. So it'll look very pastel-like. In fact, I can show you that just by adding, we'll add a dot to each of the primary colors here. Just to get an idea as to what that does to our colors. Now again, we might end up with a little bit of metallic flakes in here. So here's our yellow, and we mix it with the white. As you can see, it's like a pastel yellow. It's not brighter, because yellow is basically as bright as you're going to get out of yellow. But it's a pastel. And if you're going for that kind of look, like that's something you want, by all means, do it that way. But you just want to make sure you know how you're getting these results. So here's our blue. And as you can see, our desaturated blue, again, very pastel-like. And here's our pastel red or rose color. Kind of a pink color, but it's more importantly than it just being kind of a pink color, it's a desaturated red. So it's not the same as just, I mean, it's similar to having a pink, but it's going to perform a little bit differently. But yeah, I mean, that gives you an idea as to what you can do. And when you're dealing with the pastel colors, again, you have the primary, secondary, tertiary colors. You can make a pastel color or that, a desaturated color out of any color you have. But, I mean, this does give us a good idea as to what we're capable of with just what we got out of this box. Out of our brown, well, let's say out of our black, our white, our 3 primary colors, our brown, and our gold, we got 3 primary colors, 3 secondary colors, 6 tertiary colors, so that brings us up to 12 just on these 3 guys, 10 metallics, so that's 22, our pastel colors if you really wanted to go that route. So that's, again, we've got 22 colors before we start talking about the pastel colors, which are going to effectively double the amount of range that these paints have. And if you wanted to add black to these colors in even just a 1-to-1 ratio, it increases the depth of those colors. So adding black does not desaturate these colors, it actually saturates them. So you'll end up with just darker versions of all of these colors, but adding white does desaturate them, so keep that in mind. But as you can see, when you look at buying a paint set, and you look at these little sets and go, okay, well, there's not that many colors in them, you're not looking at it in terms of what you can do with the medium. I very much encourage people to start off with just a smaller set, get the understanding of what the different colors that you can create are, and if you come across a color that you really like let's say you've mixed this kind of forest green with this orange, and you've got something that you really, really like, write it down. Write down the mix. How many drops of each color did you use to get there? This notebook, if you start now, the notebook will save your bacon in terms of paint projects. Years later, you can come back and say, okay, I know how I got those colors. The reason why you'd have additional paints, because it's not that having additional paints is worthless. It's not. But the reason why you'd have additional paints that maybe you bought the green, maybe you've got the purple and the orange, is basically to save yourself time. If you're doing a whole army in orange, mixing up a batch of orange every time, it's going to be a pain in the butt. Plus, if you want a specific kind of orange, and let's say it's a kind of a funky mix, like let's say it's I don't know, 1 part red to 5 parts orange, you could conceivably mix that ratio up, and then it's not going to look right, and then you're not going to have consistency. So there is reasons to buy additional paints. That being said, it's not required to get the job done. You do not need to buy additional paints to paint your models, whatever colors you want. Really, again, I would recommend picking up a gold and maybe you really like this color of green, and that's perfectly fine. You're going to have it anyway if you pick up this set. It is a little bit darker green than this guy, but is it necessary? No. So just keep that in mind. And again, thanks for watching. This was a basic color theory video. I'm not going to go into what your best colors are to use with other colors because, frankly, I'm not that good at it. Every time I need to come up with a paint scheme, I look at a color wheel and go, okay, I like these 2 colors together. They seem to match, and I check to make sure that that's realistically going to look good for the majority of people. And there's books and books on this. In fact, any kind of color theory book will do just fine. But this will teach you at least how to get to some of the basic color combinations and really expand the lifespan of your paints. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like it, comment in the comments below. I want to know what you think. Where could this have gone better for you? If you want to know more about this or you want to know something else, definitely ask and we will do our best to address it. I don't claim to be a pro painter. I have a very basic knowledge of this kind of stuff, and I do like having painted armies. I like playing against painted armies, so I really want to encourage people to do that. That being said, I don't have all of the answers, but I do have some friends that have won lots of competitions and do this stuff professionally. So if there is a question that I can't answer, we can get the answer for you, hopefully. But again, thanks for watching.